Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead. In February, March of 2020, a little more than 2 years ago, when I was ranting and raving about what was going to happen in the Black Swan, and I alluded to it last night. I took a lot of heat, which I'm used to getting, but and I had, now there's panic in the markets across the board. Although we had a little bit of a respite the last couple of days, but we had days down 1,400, down 1,000, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm here to say it's just going to get worse. Now, I'm not going to explain to you. This seminar is not about why I know it's going to get worse. You didn't listen to me 2 years ago. You're not going to listen to me now. It took me 15, maybe 20 years to figure out that sad commentary. Because hope springs eternally, even though I'm telling you hope and prayer are not strategies. My mother had enough influence on me that hope and prayer that you would ultimately get it. But you're not. You don't. Just as the backward bicycle last night, you'd have to rewire everything overnight. And most of you in the room can't rewire everything ever. And that's why I said you wasted your money. Now, if I was going to do this in another 25 years, I'd have to develop upsells, I think is what they're called. But since I'm not going to do it in another 25 years, I have no intention of doing that. Or make a silver circle, or that shit that everybody else has got. When the gurus have a Valentine's Day sale, 50% off, what was the shit worth the day before Valentine's Day? But you buy it. Because like the nymphomaniac example I gave you, you can't help yourself. You just can't. Or as they would say in this part of the world, you canna. You canna. And when I have meetings with Scottish people, and I start to say canna, wouldn't, and they don't understand that I'm poking fun at them, that they're illiterate. Because everybody's illiterate up here. Even the guys that went to Oxford and Cambridge, they're illiterate, because that's how you talk. And if you're from 2, 3 years old, hearing your parents say canna, wouldn't, you don't think anything's wrong with it. And that's why you have such difficulty, like the backwards bicycle. And that's why engineers have it the hardest, accountants, architects, that kind of thing, because you're taught linearly. And QLA is not a linear program. But when I played these things, ad nauseum I played these things. 6, 7, 8 times a day I played this motherfucker. And it didn't resonate. 6, sometimes 10 times a day. And it didn't resonate. And there you are. And if that one didn't work, then I played, I played that one. And most of you thought that you were the little white horse that's outrunning the wave. But even the little white horse got, because you can't help yourself. And all of it came true. And the biggest grumbles I got was when I predicted negative oil. The only motherfucker that walking on this 7.8 billion people on the planet that predicted negative oil is sitting in this fucking chair, this old man. Now, how can I be so fucking smart? I am, though. But how? When you're so fucking stupid. The backward bicycle. Do you think I show you the backward bicycle just because, I forgot to wipe my ass or something? Because you're not wired to be unwired. You're not wired to be unwired. Just like the poor fuckers up here, couldn't, wouldn't, didn't. Just like for those of you that come from Spanish-speaking countries, you speak English with a fucking Latino accent. Which I don't think is so charming. And my mother was smart enough to not allow me to speak our native language in our home because she didn't want me to sound like a fucking pendejo cab driver from Tijuana. Don't you get it? You cannot rewire yourself. You will not rewire yourself. Guys that rewire themselves like sitting over here, Peter, are 1 in 10,000. Yet you're still here. Now, I get a plethora of emails when the seminar's on. Oh, God, I forgot to tell Dan this. Here's a guy that came to the seminar in August 2021. Now, we'll start with his QLA Ferrari, and his new Rolls doesn't have a QLA on it, license plate. All these cocksuckers can get QLA but me. I can't get. I've tried several places to get a QLA license plate. 186 million, 30 million, 350 million, 101 million that he's done since August of last year. He doesn't look that smart, does he? Everybody in this room has got a reason, whether it's the Rand, it's apartheid, it's Obama, Clinton. You all got a reason. Most of your reasons are all full of shit. I may have alluded to last night, one of the guys who's a preacher man who came here, and he came here, he stayed for 4 or 5 years to come here because his son had come home from school and said, Daddy, why is our house smaller than everybody else's house? Preacher guy from Oklahoma or someplace. Bumfuck USA. And then before he could answer, his little boy said, God doesn't pay that well, does he, Daddy? That must have been a knife in his fucking heart. Well, you're not preacher, and they haven't. How come you got paid so fucking shitty? You can understand it for a preacher man, can't you? I think he made $41,000 a year. In bumfuck Alabama, you can live on $41,000 a year. In some place of Hungary, you can live on $30,000 a year. How is this possible that you're so distended from wealth? How is it possible? You're so fucking stupid. How? All of you should have rolled down the inside of your mama's leg. There's not a man, woman, or it. And the it seems to be staying off the radar. It's a motherfucker. And the preacher man just closed his first deal, as I mentioned, $2.8 million, home health. And the first thing he did was buy a new house, like I said. Now, I don't know what his 8-year-old is now, 10 years old. I said about this, but he must think that either his prayers were answered, prayer was a strategy. But if prayer has been your strategy, it hasn't worked out too well. It hasn't worked out too well. And so for the last almost 2.5 years, I've been screaming that the black swan is coming. The market finds a reason to correct. Part of that more recent reason is that the Federal Reserve in America, followed by all the other federal banks, country-owned banks, has fucked up. And then we had, Ukraine was the cherry on the cake. But there are many people in this room, as I alluded to last night, have lost their few pennies, and the markets are all down. I put charts like this ad nauseum on my social media. Ad nauseum. Inflow of equities exceeds combined inflow for the past 19 motherfucking years. What could you possibly be thinking? It's going to last another 19 years, you fucking morons? Margin debt at the highest of all time. I said it over and over and over. And you did nothing. Why is Bitfuck so volatile? Because 95% purchased on margin, borrowed money. So when it goes down 10 or 15% in one day, you got to bring in other assets into your account to make up for the debt. And we got some Bitfuck boys in here. And why have I said Bitcoin or blockchain is here for to stay? I'm not talking about that. But the Bitcoins and Bitfuck in particular, their marketplace or the people that buy it are two markets. Professional hedge fund guys that eat you for lunch. And you morons. Even though I don't like hedge funds, even though I once had a private equity fund myself, I put my money on the hedge fund guys 99.9999 times out of 100. And the only time you're going to outtrade them, outthink them, outdo them is by accident. Yet we have Bitcoin people in here right now. They bought it at $45, $50, $55, $60,000 a coin. What could you possibly be thinking? Again, backward bicycle. And we're just fortunate to have a guy here that was able to learn how to ride a bike backwards. And I tried the bike. We used to have the bike many years ago. And you guys spend all your time trying to learn how to ride it. So we got to get rid of that fucker. Just like we used to have a gym before Corona. That was a boxing ring and a gym. And most of you fight like girls. That after the regular boxing, you go in there and you scratch each other's eyes out, And then you lift weights for the first time in your life and you pull muscles. It was a joke. When the $1 trillion man says the motherfucker's going to be a black swan and the market's going down, you better pack your motherfucking bags. And I got responses, well, I don't understand what that meant. You're brain dead, like I said before. And it's going to it got worse since then. And it's going to get worse again. And what are you going to do? With your little 401ks for those of you that are in the United States. Tell me, I got emails. Tell me it ain't so, $1 trillion man. Tell me it ain't so. You called it a year ago. What's next? Hell's next. Like they say in Hell Week in the seal, the only easy day was fucking yesterday. I said 12 years ago, if interest rates go up 300 to 500 basis points, that's 3 to 5%. In other words, from 5 to 8 or 10. The model will be affected, this model. This model made money in the 80s. Before I taught you guys, I was doing it for myself, when interest rates were 16, 18, 19%. But the deals have to be 3, 4, 5 times better. It's pure math, or as they say in this country, maths. I don't know why they say maths, plural. But the cash flow has to be 2 or 3 or 4 times greater to be able to cover debt service if you use commercial debt. And we're headed that way. Interest rates so far are up about, depending where you are in the world, between 75 and 100 basis points. Some places they're only up, 25 or 50 basis points. but the interest rates are going higher. And by definition, forgetting bond yields and the velocity of money and all that shit that you're too stupid to understand, the market's going south. And even though that market shouldn't affect anything, it's a leading economic indicator. 12 to 18 months. Some people say now 24 months. So the deals are going to have to be better. And if it goes up 500 basis points, they're going to have to be significantly better. And then I would imagine that for those of you that are still going to be trying to ride the backward bicycle, that you're going to use 100% seller finance. And you tell me that you can't get seller finance. Well, I'm telling you wrong. I could go to where you live and get seller finance, and I'm not black. But I'm 10 times smarter than you are. Because he can't help himself because he's half African on one side and half shitbag on the other side, whatever. Nobody in this room believe that if you make 300 calls a day, you'd be rich almost overnight. No, because you didn't make it. If somebody told me when I was poor, which they did, and I did make 300 calls a day, and the only advice I gave our two of our children that went on to school, graduate school, etc., when you get your first job, make 300 calls, be the first one in the building and the last one out of the building. Be there before the trash is picked up in your building and be there after. And both of them were acknowledged by the CEO and the chairman of the two respective companies. Whose light is that on at 4:15 in the morning? Well, that's Kelly Peña. She gets here before the trash collectors. And they both made 300 calls a day in the sales programs that they were with their Fortune 200 and 300 companies. Got promoted above the grain or the strain or whatever. I remember our daughter saying, "Daddy, how do you know 300 calls a day, 300 cold calls a day will make it?" Because nobody else does 50 calls, honey. But now, this program, the higher the interest rates, the more cold calls you're going to have to make. For those of you that say that you looked at my website and devoured everything, which is a fucking lie, I'm surprised your noses aren't growing, like Pinocchio. I said you're 2,000 cold calls away from being a millionaire. And that's free on the website. And your beloved crypto fuck. Why is the savior of the new world going down like it had a rock on its fucking neck? I understand why. This seminar is not to explain to you why. I know why. Just as I said several years ago, if you knew what I knew about crypto fuck, it would go to zero. Remember all the shit I took. Who in the world on the planet would benefit the most by the U.S. economy falling to shit? China and Russia. No question. Even you midget brains can probably figure that out. And when China realized it wasn't fucking up our economy, it was fucking up their economy, they banned it. That should have been a big signal to you. But it wasn't, as they say here. And now poor Putin has gotten himself in, his cock in the custard, so it doesn't, crypto is a sideline. Now, the 100 smartest people on the planet all know what I just said before it happened, just like I knew it was going to happen. Except then there's you. In this country, they say you're as thick as two short planks. I'm not sure what that really means, but it means you're thick as shit. 60 IQ, not even 75 IQ. Now, how can you be so fucking misinformed? Because your parents were morons, their parents were morons. They accused me of being a Neanderthal. Well, Neanderthals' brains were 25% bigger than Homo sapien. And I do have an extra rib. I have the Neanderthal rib, 13th rib. My dad had a 13th rib. So it's worked out pretty well for me. And I say, how's your program worked out? It hasn't it. Success leaves clues. And even though I say every group that comes through here since Peter's time, they're getting dumber. They're getting dumber. In the 90s, when I created most of my billionaires, we didn't have webinars. We didn't have any of the tools you have. As Dan Locke and Bruce DeWhipple said when they came back to the seminar a few years ago, the only thing you don't do for them, Dan, is hand walk them through a deal and sign the papers for them. And most that attend the seminar would give me 99% of the deal just for me to do the deal for you. We've got plenty of data on that. And a few years ago when I stopped the mentor program, when we went back and looked at not all, but a great deal of data, I realized that I was merely a crutch on your way to failure. When I went to school, having flunked out of university 3 times, I didn't do any work until the day before this exam or even the morning of the exam. I looked at the books, maybe. I'm told it's not much different other than from the real studious kids that, study all year long. I certainly wasn't one of those. In 1964, I went to San Jose State University. Why? Because Playboy magazine had voted it the Playboy School of the Year. It's the only reason. If you can get sucked and fucked at San Jose State University, 1964-5, it's because you didn't have a dick. The sororities set the university on fire. Not fraternities. Sororities set the police station on fire. The sororities, we had a one-legged, one-armed, all-conference tackle. Set him on fire. Because he only had one foot was missing and one arm was missing. And I went to school there proudly. And flunked out of there proudly. And here's where we are. Here's where we are. I say so many things that are hate crime, sex crime. I'd have to have an extra staff just to keep track of the shit. And as Elon Musk said in his infamous words, that PC and woke is going to be the death of us. And it's interesting how Elon now, he is the dartboard of the liberals because he's coming out, the real African heritage that he has is coming out. For those of you that don't know, he's from South Africa. His dad was in emerald mining, I think, something or other. And he went to Canada and went to, I think, McGill. And then he went to graduate school for about a day and thought it was bullshit. He dropped out. I think it was Stanford. What are some of the comments about the backward bicycle from you guys? Other than you can't do it. By the way, we've only had 2 people do it when we had it for many, many years. They were the children of the you. That the wives and the kids came back to pick up their father, and the kids jumped on the fucking bike like they were taking a piss. We've never had an adult grown man or woman ride the bike successfully. Yes, sir. Please use the mic.
Yeah, so the kid was, when the father offered him the opportunity to meet an astronaut in Australia, the kid was super motivated, but also not burdened with the years of experience that the father had, so he was able to do it in 2 weeks instead of several months.
Well, we've had people try for several years, and they can't, Now, I'm accused, I have the brain the size of a planet. I'm really, really smart. Big IQ. And I thought that, I looked at it for about an hour before I got on it. Boom. So with my brain as big as the planet. Anything else about the backward bike? Yes, sir. Again.
So when they were doing the challenge on the stage where people were challenged to go 10 feet without falling off, one thing I noticed was they were right on the edge of the stage. And like you say, you have to, run towards the gunfire. If they had turned off the stage, they would have maybe had better chances. But it seemed like a lot of them were just afraid of going off the edge.
Well, most of you in this room are afraid of going off the financial edge. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Yes? You saying something? Or are you just looking dumb like a Hungarian?
No. So I wanted to say that my takeaway was also the first sentence that knowing something doesn't mean that we understand. And I think it applies for, at least for me, for QLA, that we will get here a lot of knowledge in a week. But if you don't apply it, it doesn't mean shit.
Well, yes. But more importantly than that, all I want to know is how. I've never wanted to know why. Every man, woman in this room wants to know why, and not the how. There's a whole Freudian, Mendelssohn, psychiatric analysis to that shit, but it doesn't mean shit, so I don't go through it. But you want to know how. Why, not how. You want to know the code behind. And the code behind doesn't mean dick. Now, skipping to Baron Trump, which our kids were raised very much like he is being raised. They don't have a 57th floor penthouse like he does or whatever he has, but very similar. And when you have lots of money, it's very difficult to raise kids and they have them not evenly balanced, but whatever the words, that they're not, freaks. But there are people, believe me, my own children, that were raised very similar to that, which most people that have come through the seminar can't relate to. They have other problems. Baron Trump, like his father, isn't interested in being liked. He's only interested in being effective. Most of you that have come through the seminar want to be liked. We had one guy who was a lawyer a few years ago said, I would rather be more effective and liked, which I haven't seen that happen. But the icons that you guys look up to, the Elon Musk, the Steve Jobs before, the Bill Gates, these various other people, are all assholes. Every one of them is a stone cold prick. See, you want their success, but you don't want the emotional human sacrifice they've gone through. You want to be on the podium as a gold winner at the Olympics without putting in the 10 years of training. Because you're delusional. And as I've said before, when your parents, to the extent that they were disingenuous to tell you could be anything you want in life, they were cold, stone liars. You can't be anything you want in life. There's 15 or 20 families on the planet, and you know their names. They can be anything they want. But if you're not one of those 15, 20 families, you're pissing in the wind. And I realize for a woman, it's harder to piss into the wind. But anyway, you get the drift. You get the drift. And one of the things that came home, clear, is the sunlight that we're getting trick fucked here. Well, the good weather when we were at the Berkshire Hathaway meeting. When people said something not nice about Charlie Munger or Warren, I thought we were going to have a fucking riot. Those 30, 35,000 people. And these are all pot-bellied, saggy-tit men, rich. I thought we were going to have... I've never been in an event in my life that didn't have more security. Guns. And I couldn't understand when we went through the executive VIP, whatever. After I was there a few hours, I realized these old fuckers, they're not interested in your opinion. I'm on board. They have pulled up the gangplank. there was a armed, every 50 feet, 60, 70 feet, there was an armed, either off or on duty, I don't know, policeman, sheriff, whatever. And for those of you that know anything about Warren, an icon, he plays the old grandfather Santa Claus, he's anything but that. He's a stone cold prick. Now, this is Donald Trump crying. Somebody caught him off camera during the national anthem. Full disclosure, I knew him in a previous life, but because I knew him in a previous life, the person sent me this. And in his mind, he is a true American. In a lot of minds, he's not such a true American for all the obvious reasons I'm not going to beat to death. Okay, thank you.